The last month, we have seen unrest in our country, and I know Arizona's law enforcement is doing their best to listen and work with the community. I talked with Sheriff Paul Penzone about how important it is to keep the line of communication open. Well, this is the interview I've been waiting for a long time because Sheriff Paul, as I call him, we've known each other for, gosh, over 20 years before he became a sheriff. And right now I really am glad to have this talk with you because we're at a time in our country that has been putting people divided with our people who serve our community. And the question I have is, as I've been looking around at other states and stuff, here in Arizona, we're not seeing so much of a big roar, and I think it's because of you. Because you are in the community, you're talking to us, and I want to ask you, do you think that's why we're not seeing such a big roar here in our area? Because our community is together, you go out and talk, you sit there and keep these open communications going with the community?
Well, I think you're being exceptionally kind to give me any part of the credit, but I do believe that for the most part in Arizona, our law enforcement leaders have the one attribute I think is most important, and that's humility. You know, this is a considerable privilege, comes with great responsibility, but when you recognize the very people that you serve, and oftentimes that means those who are involved in some way in criminal activity or other behaviors, that if you can view them through a human lens, understand your responsibility, but not make it about you. You know, this office is not something that I own, it's something I'm supposed to be responsible to care for. And I think when you have that humility, people are more open to forgive, to work with you, and to understand the challenges that I represent on behalf of the men and women who do the job.
Yeah, and we know we had the police chief talking. She's a big part of the community because she, again, was just a law officer at the time before she became chief. You were working before you became sheriff in these communities. So you guys are really tight-knit here. But also, you're seeing that, you're hearing the outcry of people because they're talking about defunding our law enforcement. I'm going to say right now, and I don't agree with it. I agree with what you guys are saying when we sit and have these talks, that you want more education out there. That's what's so important. So when you say take away these funds, it's taking away the education that should be brought to our law enforcement.
Well, I don't think our nation can survive if we don't have men and women who are willing to protect those, you know, whether it be the Constitution, the laws, the other elements that give us a sense of safety. Now, I recognize that when it's done wrong, it is really, really wrong. But if we truly believe in our values as a nation, we have to find a way to make this profession better so that we have those who are willing to serve the community who needs. Because if you talk to someone who's been a victim of crime and law enforcement has either been there to protect them or to ensure that justice was served, there's no denying that value. So I am a believer and I am confident that we can find the path to build a law enforcement community that best represents our values and respect the community that best represents who we are in our diverse manner. So defunding is not the answer. Defunding, as a matter of fact, is probably more of the problem. If officers and deputies aren't properly trained, if you don't have the resources to hold them accountable, have transparency, if we don't invest in their mental health and mental wellness, then we're going to have a challenge in delivering the service that the community is entitled to. I do recognize the value in investing in social services and trying to reduce crime and reduce recidivism, but there's a balance in that. We need to make sure that we're thoughtful in this process.
Yeah, and I think people need to really take a look and not so much judge our law enforcement thinking they don't understand anything. And I'm gonna get choked up because you and I have interracial kids. Your stepson is. And right now, it is such a hard thing to hear them kind of having this battle inside their self. And I just want to ask you, as knowing the struggles that our kids are having, what have you told your stepson?
Well, first I just tell him I love him. You know, to start in our dynamic is, yes, I have my natural son who is 27, and I have my stepson who is 33. And I came into his life, you know, he was a man. He was 17 years old when I first met him. And I walked into this relationship with this naivety that I understood what it was like to be African American in America. And then all of a sudden, I had this young man in my life, and I saw it through the lens of my experiences with him, and I realized I knew nothing. And I still am surface level in knowledge. But in my home, for my wife, you know, she sees our son, her son, you know, her birth son, and worries for him and sees what he's challenged with. And then I come through the door wearing this uniform, and suddenly I'm representing where the challenge comes from. So it's difficult, but I'm just, call me naive and optimist. It's difficult, but it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to finally do something that matters in race relations to show that everyone is equal, not just under the law, but as humans. We should all have respect for each other. And if that dynamic within my own home doesn't drive me to be better and to represent this profession better, then nothing will.
Yeah, and I just thank you for sitting down with me, and I'm asking you out there as the public, as watching our show. I know we're a fun and great show to watch, thank you very much, but I thank you for sitting and talking with me, and that's what we really want people to do. Sit and talk with law enforcement, talk with each other, and I think that would definitely make us the great state we are of Arizona.
No, and thank you for, for the way that you deliver these messages and the way that you've always engaged the community. This loving, thoughtful, friendly way. And if we could all learn those attributes and be more open to each other, then these issues and these challenges, I think, kind of just dissolve because we're better people.
Thank you very much, Sheriff.
Thank you.